Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Scoop on KState, a show about the KState journey to become a NextGen land grant, featuring insights and stories from Wildcats leading the way. I'm your host, Adam Walker, President and CEO of the KState Alumni Association. As an R1 research university, KState is a major public research university with 3 physical campuses, 1 global virtual campus, and presence in all 105 Kansas counties. And perhaps most importantly, we're a land grant university. In the fall of 2023, we launched our new strategic plan. We are building on a strong foundation and taking action to become the NextGen land grant university. And today, Marshall Stewart, who has the longest title, I think. Let's see if I can get through this. Go take a breath here. Senior Vice President for Executive Affairs, University Engagement and Partnerships, and Chief of Staff. I think, does that all fit on there?
That's all there.
Okay. Well, we're glad to have you today, so thanks for joining us, Marshall.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and I want to say, too, welcome to KState. I know it's coming home for you to be the new head of the alumni, and we are glad to have you and Rebecca back in town.
Well, we're very grateful to be here, so thanks for joining us. So we're going to talk about engagement and impact. So on the topic of that, you know, your career focus, your relationships, your impacts have been with Land Grant University. So kind of explain to us, why that is.
Well, I think, I guess it's, it really goes back to why did I ever go to a land grant university. I think most people that have gotten to know me a little bit know that I went to North Carolina State University, and had it not been for 3 agriculture teachers, that doesn't happen. We had not been a family that had any affinity or any connection with NC State other than we watched them play sports on TV. That was it. And suddenly, these 3 ag teachers really influenced my life, and I didn't understand it at the time. They didn't ask me to go. They didn't encourage me to go. They told me, you're going, and my dad thought it was a good idea. And that really started a journey for me. North Carolina State University, I had the opportunity to go there over a course of time, get 3 degrees, go on, work there for 21 years, then had a chance later to go to the University of Missouri, another land grant university, and then now come at K-State. Land grant means a lot to me, though, because I think what Abraham Lincoln had in mind was that it should be accessible and open to all. You didn't have to be affluent, well-connected. You didn't have to come from a certain part of society. That when he signed the Land Grant Act in 1862, that it was to open the door for generations to come, and literally it has done that. If you look over the course of history, there have been generation after generation that have gone to places like K-State, Mizzou, NC State, and many other land grant universities across the country, at least one in every state. Some states have multiples, that have had the opportunity to do that. And what it did, it opened up a middle class. It created a middle class. It opened up economic opportunity. Economic mobility became a possible thing for people. And I feel like I am that person that probably in some ways Lincoln had in mind, that came from rural America, that maybe wasn't connected, that had that chance. And so I'm very grateful. It's a very humbling thing to think about. And I'll tell you another piece of that, Adam, that's really important that a lot of people don't know, is if you go back one generation before my parents, my grandparents, John and Iva Stewart, Western South Carolina is where they were from, they never went to school. No, I didn't say college. They never went to school. Neither one of them could read or write their whole lives. And they X'd their names to the day they died, and yet their grandson had the opportunity to do this. And to me, it's not just a great opportunity to work at a land grant. It is an obligation to serve and to figure out how you open that up for other people. So this is really not work, it's mission. And I'm on mission every day to try to figure out how we leverage this university and all these experiences I've had so that more generations get a chance to do the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I think of land grant and the way you explain it, it's very interesting. What does NextGen land grant mean, here at K-State?
Well, again, go back to 1862. The idea was the sons and daughters of toil. That's the language in the law that was crafted at the time, was that those individuals who had not had the opportunity would get to go to college, open up access, create this new opportunity. They were from agricultural backgrounds, rural America. That's where the sons and daughters of toil were from. So now you fast forward that. Today, we would say, if you were writing it today, what does it mean to be land grant today? Well, it means the sons and daughters, those people out there across the hinterlands of America, could be urban, could be rural, they have the opportunity. It's still about economic mobility.
It's about access.
It's about access. It's still about opening up doors. It's still about helping people to achieve something beyond themselves It could be from agriculture. You got to remember, in 1862, people were farming not because they wanted to, because they had to. 98%, almost 100% of the population farmed, and it was to survive. Farming became an enterprise. If you look at the development in the early 1900s of cooperative extension, which is a big part of land grant, it is a land grant. It's a land grant idea. It was there that we transformed agriculture from being something you had to do to something you could choose to do. It became a farming enterprise. And so land grant has meant a lot to agriculture. It's meant a lot to society. It's meant a lot to people coming from all walks of life, military sciences. There are so many stories inside of that where it gave opportunity. One of the great things about KState, in fact, is that there were women on this campus in the late 1800s, unheard of. Mm-hmm. That's a great story. You talk about access.
Yeah.
You're talking about a time where women didn't have that opportunity. Yet they gave them that opportunity here at Kansas State, and it's something this institution, as the first operational land grant, should be really proud of.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. You talk about that, and I think it's important to note, our first graduating class, half of them are female. Think about that. That's incredible in the 1800s.
It's beyond incredible. It's just stunning. I've had alumni here, some folks that are a part of your organization, come and tell me those stories about how their great-great-great-grandmother was in that realm. I mean, it is remarkable to think about what this university did for people in this part of the state and this part of the country, and how it has continued to do that generationally. We've always been about access. We've always been about opportunity, and we continue that legacy here. That Lincoln legacy is still alive and well at Kansas State University.
Yeah, and speaking of the, connecting and serving, when you think about land grants, and you explained that really well, we recently had an economic impact released, and it's very pretty impressive, I would say, and just show the impact we have, on the region, on the state. Why don't you share some of those numbers?
Well, one of the things that we were really excited about, President Linton and I talked a lot about this, was really to benchmark where we are. We know we have great value to Kansans. We didn't know what that was. So we brought in a third party that does a lot of this work with universities, one that I had actually worked with in the past in a couple different studies. They got the bid, were able to come in and really look at our numbers. And what they were able to determine is that we have a $2.3 billion impact in Kansas. Now, that's not to say the impact we have in other surrounding states, the region, and the world. We have greater impact than that. But just in 105 counties, 2.8 million people, right here in Kansas, is $2.3 billion. Now,
Incredible.
When you think about that, you think about the Alumni Association, I think your impact in terms of what you do is about 12 million plus. That's employees, that's money turning over, ROI that happens right here in this community primarily. You think about what Extension does and Research and Extension does across this state. Their number is well north of $350 million in what they do. You think about the athletics program here, well over $450 million, people coming in, going out. You think about all those kinds of things we do across the state that really drive those economic numbers. Our foundation raises $200 million, but yet they have impact here of $10, $12 million a year in terms of what they're doing that turns money right here in this local economy, this region. That we are an economic engine on so many levels. We employ people. We cause companies to come and build around us that then employ people. There's restaurants here that would not exist here if we weren't here, because our people, our students, our faculty, our staff use those restaurants. All of that's part of that economic model, and we're excited to have a benchmark now, and I can tell you what will happen in the future. That number is only going to go north. We're going to continue to climb and be even more important for Kansas as Kansas State. I heard one of our great leaders in the state recently, and I won't call his name, but I thought he made an interesting statement and I don't want to quote him in this setting, but I thought it was a really interesting statement. He said, as goes Kansas State, so goes the state of Kansas. And I really believe that's true because of the outreach, the land grant idea, the access, the affordability, the things we do in terms of economic impact. We are truly a remarkable jewel that we need to continue to figure out how to make it shine, how to make it grow, how to make it really more impactful for the people of this state. Yeah, and people that know K-State know the impact, but I think that's why it's so important to do that study and actually put it in numbers. And you're right, see how it grows over time. And there was also a stat, number of K-State employees, I guess, or of K-State grads in the state of Kansas. Yeah, it's remarkable. I mean, you're talking thousands and thousands of people that are right here in the state. A lot of our students stay in the state. Yep. You also think about what the state legislature gives us in terms of their investment into the university, and it's well over $8 per dollar they give us, a 1-to-8 ratio in that realm. There's just so much good here that we are really cranking in a good way. And the good thing is, Adam, we're just getting started. We're just getting moving this NextGen land grant idea of how we modernize the land grant, how we modernize what we do, our impacts in the state, and what we can do for Kansans, which, again, as you've heard me say before, our real student body is not just the 20,000 or so on this campus. It's 2.8 million people. We're chartered. We're mandated. It's our birthright. We are to serve Kansans first. And if we do that well, Kansas will take care of us. And if we don't do that well, they're going to take care of us too. We just won't like it. What we have to do is figure out how we continue to do that well, though.
Yeah.
And we're excited to be on that trajectory again of growing that economic impact and all the other social impacts we have in the state.
I think what's important too is not just Kansas. Obviously, Kansas is main constituency that we serve. But if we solve issues here in Kansas, as you like to say, you can solve them around the world.
It's the same stuff here. I mean, if you look at Kansas, we have issues related to water. It's a big one in the state of Kansas. If we can resolve and solve issues related to drought, to tolerance in crops, to water conservation, being better stewards of water, if we do that in Kansas, you can do that in other states, you can do it in other countries. Literally, you can have the global impact. It's so interesting. I'll give you another example of that right here at Kansas State. Kansas State has probably, without a doubt, been the most impactful university in terms of research in wheat of anywhere in the world. Well, it's not surprising. We have historically grown a lot of wheat here. That was a main crop here, still is. But the varieties we've grown here, and the innovation that's occurred in research around that has had global impact in all parts of the world, and it has increased food security for people. There are people around the world that literally survived, thrived, had great lives because of research done at this university. But we first and foremost did it to help farmers and ranchers here have a better life and to have a more productive crop. But that impact was global. So you think about what you can do locally, but you realize it's going to have a global impact in everything we do. So it's exciting to be a part, again, of Kansas State as we move forward in this next generation land grant idea.
Yeah. And talk about stakeholders. And I think this is really important. Extension efforts, and I don't think I even knew this coming to K-State, is our extension, or maybe talk about K-State 105, which is really impressive. Just the sheer impact and really leverage K-State has in the state of Kansas. Maybe talk about K-State 105 and some of that.
Yeah, well, first of all, one of the things that's very unique about a land-grant university is extension. Extension was an idea that if you go back in 1862, move forward to the 1880s, there was the need to take experimentation, research out. And so they created ag experiment stations. You'll see ag research centers all over the state of Kansas. You go into any state, you're going to see them. Missouri had them. North Carolina has them. Anywhere I've ever been, every state has those. And those are placed geographically. So they had different soil types, different geographies, different climate based on what was going to be grown there, the livestock grown there, or whatever it may be, so people could come and see real time. So you didn't have to come to Manhattan. You could go see it in western Kansas or where it was extending the institution. So let's start there, 1880s. That started, and then you move forward to 1914. Smith-Lever Act put in cooperative extension. They said it's not enough to get it close to people. We got to put it in their community, in their county. So cooperative extension, federal, state, and county investment cooperative extension was born in the early 1900s, and that's where extension agents is a federal program, so therefore we call them agents, that came into being. And the idea was to disseminate information into those communities. So if you go back to those early 1900s, we started working on issues like introduction of hybrid seed corn. Hybrid seed corn was something that a lot of people didn't really understand. So what they did is through 4-H, for instance, they would introduce, they'd have corn growing clubs where young men, in this case, would compete with each other, and they would see who had the best yield. Their fathers did not want to use hybrid seed corn. They thought it was maybe not safe. Once they saw their sons doing a great job with it, then they would adopt it. So through their children, extension got adoption. On this other side of the equation, remember 1914 in that era, young women, they were trying to figure out how do we reach them, and what they found was that women of that era were doing a lot of canning and preserving. And there was a lot of food poisoning. They didn't know how to do it well. So they taught through tomato canning clubs that 4-H had. They taught their young women how to do this. These young girls would learn this. They'd compete at the county fair, the state fair. The mothers saw it. They adopted the practices, and people lived a lot longer. So through extension, it was about taking knowledge to people. If you had to do it through your children, you do it through the children. If you could take it direct through adult education, teaching people how to do different kinds of agricultural practices, because that's where extension started. Again, the prevailing need of the day was to reach these people in these rural areas. But today, if you look at extension, it's transformed. We have urban extension in Kansas City, Wichita. We have programs in urban gardening and master gardeners. We got programs in nutrition and health and community vitality. You got programs and doing all kinds of things. And what we're about doing now is reimagining what extension can be. Right now, extension primarily is coming out of the College of Agriculture, College of Human Sciences. We want to expand that. We want to figure out with Greg Hadley, Ernie Minton, so many other leaders in this state, how do we take that and make it across the entire university? So if there's something out of engineering, something out of business, something wherever it may be that can be extended into community, we want to do that.
Healthcare, childcare.
So we're excited about that.
Yeah,
it can come from all over the place. So it's really about how do you expand that so that the entire university gets to participate and leverage knowledge through that system. You know, I often say that extension it's like the human internet. It was the connector before there was the internet, and it's human. And that's a beautiful thing to think about, connectivity with people. So a lot of this will be about our people not only delivering content in the field, our agents, but also being connectors. You don't have to know where all the knowledge yourself. You know where to get it. And I think that's something you're going to see a transition toward as we look futuristically about extension, engagement, outreach. Then you move into KState 105, which is the economic development side of that. We were very fortunate in the state of Kansas last year to get an allocation of dollars to begin a new initiative around economic development and business development. How do we do that? So right now we're partnering with not only entities across our campus to bring economic development in, but we're also looking at how do we partner with other KBOR institutions, maybe expertise they have that we don't have that can be pushed into community. And are there ways to work with nonprofits and state agencies with knowledge, evidence-based programs they have, but leverage our system to get that knowledge into community. So KState 105 is really a facilitation model of how you take knowledge to people and change their lives and therefore grow the economy of Kansas. Today we're sitting on the cusp, I believe, at Kansas State University of something that can be really special for generations. I've been privileged to be a part of that in other states. I will tell you that what we do in Kansas will look different than we did in those states because this is Kansas. And whatever we build here will be built on what's best for Kansas. And that's an important part of the university too, is that this is Kansas State University, and we're going to live up to that. We're going to be purple every day. It matters here. As your predecessor told me, Amy Button-Renz told me, she said, it's not just a color. It's deeper than that. It is really something deep. It's a value, and we're going to live out that value of Kansas, and we're going to make sure that whatever we build is built for the best and the brightest of Kansas today and in the future.
Yep, and we can see that purple pride and the community visits. I thought that was really neat about the 105. So shifting gears a little bit, let's just talk about the student experience with NextGen. That includes everything from recruiting, retaining students, applied learning. Maybe just talk real briefly additional opportunities, how we connect with future Wildcats.
Well, one of the things that we're really excited about is our partnership with community colleges right now. Community colleges here, we've had them on campus, their leadership, their presidents several times now. We've been really excited to have them here, host them here, have conversations. And one of the things we're linking with community college specifically is creating this network of navigators that will work across the colleges, be on those campuses and those community colleges, advising students on how they can make the transition from community college to Kansas State. We from what I understand, we're the first university to do this in the state of Kansas. We think that's a really good model because for a lot of students, that first couple years, being able to stay at home, get those first couple years out of the way, that's about affordability. And it creates an opportunity for them to come on here and finish out their last couple years of maybe their university work here. So we're excited about that. We're also excited about the land grant promise and what that means, because another piece of this is figuring out how those students that are Pell Grant eligible can have the opportunity to come here. So if a student gets into Kansas State University, regardless of where they're from in the state of Kansas, and they are Pell Grant eligible, they come here for basically their tuition free. I mean, that's a remarkable thing. It's leveraging state, federal dollars, figuring out ways to scholarship them in ways so they can come here. Again, that goes back to the principle of the land grant, access. We want to make sure that every son and daughter of toil, whatever that means today, gets a chance to come to Kansas State University. And so we're about access, whether it's community college, directly in from high school, or even that adult learner who maybe took some courses way back in the day and wants to come back. When you think about credentialing, micro-credentials, all those things we can do, your alums, many of them who maybe want to come back and get an additional credit in something, we want to figure out how to really grow not only student base, but learner base. And when you grow to learners, then you're really about all Kansans, because all of them at some level need and want to learn to grow the economy, to have educational, better education so they can do better in the economy, improve their health, whatever it may be. We want to be a part of making Kansans all they can be.
Yeah, whatever stage of life. So that's important. So as we're building this NextGen land grant, can't do it all by ourselves. Maybe talk about some partners across the state that we have.
Yeah, we've got a lot of great partners. You think about the state itself. I work a lot in government relations, obviously, and we think about our state legislature. And I want to say publicly, I've been here for about 14 months now. I have found that the legislators in this state, the governor, all the leadership, the political leadership, federal and state as well, have been extraordinary. And they're a key partner in this. We work together. This is not confrontational. We may have disagreements from time to time with any partner, but that's really key. I think about partners we have in state government. I think about the Department of Agriculture and Education and all those different kind of partners that many of our faculty and others work with. I think about our partners in the corporate side. We're doing a lot of work right now in corporate relations and really thinking about how we're going to launch new things and new ideas in that space, and how we're going to bring business and industry. Public-private partnerships is not going to be a unique thing here. It's going to be a way we do business. How do we bring partners in? And when you do bring partners in, it's about co-creation. It's not about, well, here's what we want you to come help us do. It's about us sitting across the table and saying, we this is the need. Help us co-create that. So whether it's public sector, private sector, nonprofit sector, whoever it may be, we want to bring them to the table, have them help us co-create the future that's best for Kansans. You'll hear us talk a lot, and this really connotates this idea of one KState, because we're all in this together. It doesn't matter if you work in the Alumni Association, the foundation, athletics, you work on the university campus proper, you're at Salina, or if you're at Olathe. It doesn't matter where you are, or if you're in any particular county working for Kansas State. We're one KState, and we're going to be that because we're better together.
Yep, well said. Of course, we haven't forgotten, right? The Scoop on K-State wouldn't be complete without sharing a scoop of Call Hall ice cream. And I like to say it's kind of our unofficial sponsor for right now. I love ice cream and Call Hall, of course. And we have your favorite flavors here. So you didn't pick just one scoop.
No.
You picked two. So why don't you share with everybody?
Anybody's had Call Hall. I mean, how can you pick one? Who wants to show favoritism to ice cream? So I do like mint chocolate chip. It's kind of been a favorite of mine for a long time. And, of course, if you work here, you got to have Purple Pride.
Yeah.
Purple Pride is something that's very deep. Again, it's not just a color. It's really deep in you. It's a value. So, again, I tip my hat to those who came long before me that came up with it, but really glad to now get to participate in Call Hall ice cream myself.
Yeah, love it. So thanks so much. Appreciate you being here.
Been fun, man. Let's do it again.
Sounds good. This has been The Scoop on K-State with Marshall Stewart. I'm Adam Walker, President and CEO of the K-State Alumni Association, and thanks for listening or watching our show. Be sure to share this episode with other K-Staters and select that follow button on your app so you'll never miss an episode of the show. As always, K-State Alumni Association is your connection to campus, and thanks for watching or listening. Go Cats.